Hello and welcome to the Box Score March Madness special. I'm your host, Faith Pinnow. The men's and women's tournaments are fully underway, and this year has been like no other. Underdog teams are leading a powerful march, with half of the number one seeds being eliminated before the Sweet 16. We've got a lot to talk about tonight, from upsets to Cinderella stories, and we take a look at what the future of basketball has in store. Nothing is off limits. Let the madness begin. Have been shocking, almost more shocking than the fact that Jeff Grundy is Australian. Over 20 million brackets busted so far. There's a lot to recap and even more to look forward to going into the third round. With me are our experts Danielle DuBois, Jackson Tolliver, Jeff Grundy, and Jackson Schock. We're here to break it all down for you tonight. The first thing that we've got to talk about was Friday's game between FDU and Purdue, when the 16th seed Farley Dickinson Knights overtook the number one Purdue Boilermakers 63-58. Tolliver, you're going to kick us off here. Where did the breakdown happen for Purdue?
Sure. So, I mean, first of all, before we talk about Purdue, you got to give credit to FDU. Coach Tobin Anderson coached a masterful game for them. He knew what he had. You know, last season, this is a team that got 4 wins. And this year, he comes in, squeaks into the 16th seed when nobody had him making the tournament, and pulls off the second time ever the 16th seed beating the first seed, right? And he actually just got a new deal today. He's not going to be going back. Iona's giving him a big-time 5-year deal. Yep. So congrats to him. But in terms of where Purdue went wrong, right? You know, you obviously have Zach Edey, tremendous player. He played well. Mm-hmm. He's, in my opinion, the only guy on that team that showed up. The rest of the team is going 5 for 26 from 3 with 16 turnovers compared to single digits for FDU, right? And it's also just a matter of not showing up on the biggest stage in clutch time when you need to. Mm-hmm. FDU did just that. Purdue didn't do that. Zach Edey played well, but the rest of the team has to knock down some shots.
Well, when you have a weapon like Zach Edey, but he's inside, you're relying on your other guys to get Edey the ball. And when that doesn't happen, you saw just a massive meltdown for Purdue.
Additionally, you got to remember that Purdue was playing pretty big. They had a bunch of big dudes. I mean, Edey is huge, but FDU beat them because they were so quick and small. I mean, their lead player, Demetri Roberts, is 5'8". And he was going against Zach Edey.
The average height on their team was 6'1".
Also,
that's me in heels.
Little shout out to FDU. Nice. Shout out to FDU. They had one of the worst strength of schedules this year. I don't know if you guys saw that stat.
Yeah.
Right. They played not very good competition. So huge shout out to them. It was probably my favorite game to watch during the round of 64 as a whole. I had a blast because that team is so exciting to watch.
And I think the question is for Purdue moving forward, right? This was supposed to be a rebuilding year for them. No one expected them to be number 1 seed. I don't think people weren't really expecting top 5 for Purdue. How do you move forward? Edey may or may not declare for the draft. We'll talk about that later. But do you move on from Matt Painter maybe? I mean, there have been calls for his removal for, a long time now because they haven't had success in the tournament. They've had success in the regular season. They've had success in their regional championships. But, do you move on from Matt Painter? Do you completely strike down what you have? Purdue, to me, has just been mid for so long. They haven't made the final push like you've seen other teams doing. Besides this year, them being the 1 seed was a big deal. But they fumbled the bag completely.
That was a big deal in the first place.
Let's not discredit them. They did win a Big Ten championship this year.
Of course they did.
So,
Sure.
Coach is getting it done,
right?
But not where necessarily you want to see. You can't lose to 16 seeds.
No, not like that. No. That's the second time it's ever happened in history, like you said. And that was huge.
Yeah. The first time being Virginia, who also had a massive upset in this tournament.
Well, here's the difference. And I was talking about this while I was watching the game. Virginia they had huge injuries that year.
Right.
Everyone kind of knew they weren't going deep into the tournament.
True.
So when you see that and they got like 20 balled by UMBC.
Yep.
You're like, this is shocking, but it's not as huge as, we were watching this past game and you're like this team is about to lose to a 16 seed, something that we never thought we would see 20 years ago, let alone 10. We see it once, now we see it again. I think it's starting to show kind of the wide variety of skill that we're starting to see in college ball, and I think it's really exciting for the future, and maybe we'll see some more 16-1 upsets.
Yeah, FDU went from a team that we would honestly never be talking about really on the box board to now one that we're starting the March Madness special.
Another quick shout out, and Coach Anderson, what I think is so cool, 3 players he brought up, and I mentioned Dimitri Roberts earlier. He brought up 3 players from D2, and they just beat Purdue on the biggest stage.
Yeah. Right,
Congrats to them.
It's
It's
wild.
awesome.
And he backed up his talk too. You know, he said it in the
They're a beatable team.
He said before, I keep watching them. I think we can beat them.
They sure were.
Right, I guess so.
All right, let's talk about another team that caused some massive upsets so far in the tournament. Princeton beating Arizona and Mizzou, rounds 1 and round 2. That was really, like, to say it was unexpected is a complete understatement. So what's this Ivy League team doing now that for the past 25 years they haven't been able to do? They haven't made it to the Sweet 16. So what are they doing right?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to great defense, a lot of specifically, and you see this basically all throughout this tournament. Great defense is winning you games.
Yep.
And so but at the end, but to counter that also, you need very specific offensive talent, especially from 3. Princeton senior guard Ryan Langborg, 22 points, 6 rebounds over Missouri, 4 from 12 from 3. This is somebody who is getting you 22 points, and he's not doing good from the 3-point line. Give him another 2 games, he's going to start hitting threes like you wouldn't believe. But a different side of that, senior forward Tosan Iwoma, averaging 14.8 a game. He's someone that you absolutely need to start watching. He dropped 15 against Arizona, 9 against Mizzou, and he's coming out of Newcastle, England. I was about to say he's from Newcastle. So I mean, I mean, we beat him in the FA Cup, but I'd love to see him do good for Princeton. I'm just really excited about this.
Shout out Newcastle United, man. And more so shout out to Princeton, because I think in addition to their great defense, their ball movement has been incredible. Yeah. It's been high IQ basketball, which you'd expect for a bunch of smart kids from the Ivy League. You know what I mean? Like the passing has been incredible, the ball movement, it's smart shots, and a lot of other teams can learn from that. You know, I personally, I like seeing Arizona beat UCLA in their championship, then coming to the tournament as a 2 seed. Like, I expected big things from that team. They had great size, great coaching. Yeah, exactly. And for that Princeton game to go down the way it did, and then for the next game, our correspondent Matt Doherty said he's going to burn down the entire studio. You know what I mean? So you know, I think, in my opinion, it comes to an end with Creighton, because I think Creighton is real good this year. I think that they're in my top like 6 or 7 to like finish and you know, I think the odds have them that way too. I think they're at plus 1,000 right now to win the whole thing, which is pretty good for a March Madness tournament. So I think Creighton knocks them off finally, but I gave them a ton of credit for what they've done thus far in the tournament.
They did. I mean, their Arizona game, in my opinion, it was pretty average play. They were shooting 41% from the floor, but the Missouri game, it was beautiful. It was exactly how you want the game of basketball to look. It was competitive.
Well, really quickly, the last thing I want to bring up about this Princeton team, they're 15th seeded now. They're looking to get into their first Elite 8 since 1965.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's how long the Ivy League has been in the shadows.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
they gave them, right? The Tigers gave the Ivy League their first tournament win since 2016.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean,
crazy.
I'd love to see where they go.
I just want to say I got my Princeton orange, I guess.
There you go.
Shout out to the student section of Princeton. Getting real excited. You get your first men's and women's win for an Ivy League school in the same day, and that campus is going nuts.
Yes.
It wasn't going nuts at all. No, it wasn't going nuts. They were all quiet. Congrats to the Ivy League. Maybe they can stop studying for a day, but probably not.
Yeah.
Man,
Smart kids are getting good at sports.
imagine. Okay, so we're going to talk about 3 teams kind of in one. We're moving on to the women's tournament now. Tolliver, Shock. You got all the info on this one. Miami, OSU, and Baylor, they all came back from 16-plus deficits the other day on day 2 of the tournament.
Yep.
So what trends are we seeing? Is there a lot of comebacks happening in the women's tournament?
This is both men's and women's, and specifically these 3 games. These teams are getting off to cold starts, and then they're kind of have to play catch up the entire game. You know, you saw it with Maryland, West Virginia, the first game of the year. It was just like Maryland getting pounded on turnovers and bad offense, but then eventually they kind of picked up, they got it together, and they were able to catch up by half. OSU game was very similar. They came out cold as you could be, but eventually they just kind of smoked and ran by, and they were up by 20 by the end of the game, or about 20. The Baylor game, A little different. It was closer by the end. They actually had to finish at the end mark. A good stop, hands up, no foul. But I think it shows that when it comes to tournament time, you really need to be able to. If things aren't going well early, you got to be able to switch gears and figure out what's going on and really hit on all cylinders. I mean, you saw it with Marquette. MSU just was, they were out-coached, or Marquette was just out-coached. MSU was really playing well, and because of that, they didn't have to play catch-up, but Marquette had to play catch-up the entire way. Right. And we're seeing it these games where things are starting to get out of hand, and there hits a point where you either got to make sure that you're going to catch up or you're going to get caught in the dust.
Such a huge thing that we're seeing, across the board in both tournaments, but especially in the women's tournaments, are the teams that are able to figure out how their opponents are defending them and how they're able to structure their offenses in response to that. That's been huge. It doesn't matter how good your team is. It doesn't matter how many stars you have, or if you are a team that isn't dealing with injuries. At the end of the day, the ones that are having those adaptable offenses, those fast offenses.
If you're out rebounding,
that is what's making a difference, especially in the women's tournament.
It comes down to coaching too. I think if you're able to and you have to be able to adapt. If you're not adaptable, you're not going to be able to win a game or 2 games when you're down by 10 or 16. So this is where coaching comes in. This is where experience comes in. You're not going to get as frazzled if you've dealt with this maybe 3 times, 4 times before. If you're a freshman, it's tough. It's scary. You're on the biggest stage and you're down by 16. So I think it kind of shows a lot. It speaks to a team's character. OSU, they're a gritty team, and we saw that. They ended up working their way through. They just beat UNC. That was a really exciting game.
Ninth seed, Miami just taking down Indiana?
Yeah.
And they did.
It shows grit.
It
shows grit.
Man, that was shocking.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
There we go.
It's also really interesting what happened to Stanford. Danielle, we're going to talk about that. They lost, and everybody didn't quite know why. There was such a huge breakdown. They lost to Ole Miss 54-49. What happened?
I mean, it was a close game. We can all talk about how great they did do, and they were there. They showed up, and they played their hardest to what it seems like, but they just didn't have the same passion that they had back in 2021 when they won the championship. Ever since South Carolina won last year, it just seems like they just have lost all motivation. All the pieces just aren't fitting together correctly, and they just don't have that complete team. You need a bench. You need a really good defense, and those are just things that they don't have anymore. And sadly, they had to lose to Ole Miss, and I was really excited to see them this year because I thought, okay, it's either going to be Stanford or South Carolina winning the championship. Stanford could easily rebound this year. It could be their year, but now that they're out, South Carolina it is. I mean, they're going to go all the way to the championship. They're going to win it all again, and I can safely say that now that Stanford's lost.
This doesn't give you any doubts. Stanford's loss as a #1 seed doesn't give you any doubts about whether South Carolina can see it through and can win.
What about Indiana's loss?
That was also
I mean,
huge.
yes, that's a huge deal, but ultimately, seeding does not mean anything in March Madness. We've seen all the upsets, and we've seen all the #1 seeds go down, but South Carolina is just so complete. They have Aaliyah Boston, and no shock loves Boston always.
Favorite player.
Yeah.
Favorite player.
Yeah, but
She's
also
awesome, but
in March Madness, I think in the women's tournament specifically, there hasn't been a team outside of the top 4 seeded team. Like, if you're not in the top 4 seeds, you're not going to win the championship. That hasn't happened in years.
Right.
So, or do we really think like a #9 Miami has the potential to win? Does seeding matter? That's the tricky question.
I think seeding might not matter, but a perfect season matters. I think the fact that they haven't lost at all matters. That only happens so rarely in sports. I mean, no matter what league you go to, college, professional, like the chance for a perfect season is a really big deal, and South Carolina's not going to lose sight of that for sure.
I mean, they have that drive, that passion. They want to repeat, and you can see it from the way they play. They're just the most complete team out there, and I mean, we can all safely say that. And Boston is clearly one of the best basketball players out there, men's and women's. She is just electric, and if she's carrying that team, she's not. You could easily say that she's carrying that team, but she's not. They're just so complete all around, and
great team.
Ultimately, seeding doesn't matter, and they're gonna win it all.
Yeah,
Also,
I mean
USC. Going back to it, USC. I don't know if you guys remember, but last year they lost in the SEC final to Kentucky, and that was a big deal. This is like the best team. They were highly favored to win that game, and they didn't. So they know what it's like to lose a game that they're not supposed to, and that hurts a lot. I mean, that's a ring on their finger they could have had. But again, Don Staley, and as well as Aaliyah Boston, all the leadership on that team. I mean, they're super experienced. They're coming off an undefeated season. They have their eyes focused on one thing, and that's winning a national championship. They're not worried about all the buzz and everything like that. They're not worried about getting drafted. All they're worried about right now is winning a national championship. And I know that's the case with every team, but this team is it's so special. It's probably one of the greatest women's basketball team that we've seen in a while. And I mean, they're not going to lose sight of that.
Definitely in the past decade. And I mean, we have so much more to say about that. It's time for a breather, so we're going to take a quick break, but stay right there because when we get back, it's talking all about Cinderella stories after this.
All right, come back in 10 seconds. Ready, camera one. Camera one, need a wide shot of the entire thing, and in 3, 2, 1, take talent cue.
Welcome back to Emerson College. Emerson
Camera
trails
4, get a
WPI
shot of the players
10
coming across the
points.
court.
10 seconds left. Emerson trails by 1 point. As the
Camera
team
2 close on the
finishes
person
their
shooting.
timeout. Thanks, Joe. With 10 seconds left, Emerson is hoping to pull away and score this game.
Camera 1, get a close up, follow them over.
Emerson trails WPI 10 points. 10 seconds left. Emerson trails by 1 point as the team finishes their timeout.
Camera 1, close up on number 33.
Thanks, Joe. With 10 seconds left, Emerson is hoping to pull away.
Follow the ball, follow the ball.
Welcome back to the March Madness special here on the Box Score. One of the best parts of the tournament is watching a low-seeded underdog sweep the tournament rounds and take down top teams. With me now are Matt Doherty, Jeff Grundy, and Danielle DuBois, and we're going to talk about which teams from the men's and women's tournaments we think are the most underestimated, a Cinderella story, if you will. Each of us have chosen teams that have made surprise runs in the tournament, and we're going to tell you what you can expect from them moving into the Sweet 16 rounds and beyond. Starting with you, Matt, who's your 2023 Cinderella story?
Well, first, let me make something clear. There will be no burning down of the studio, okay? just for the record.
Thank God.
Second of all, thank you for asking. My Cinderella team is FAU, Florida Atlantic University, the Owls. They have been mesmerizing so far, okay? And they're sort of the perfect Cinderella team in a couple different ways.
Okay.
They're incredibly deep. They're incredibly well-rounded. They got five guys averaging over 8 points a game. You see when their bench comes in, I can't even tell. I don't think there's any difference when their bench comes in. It's phenomenal. They're incredibly competent offensively. I mean, you see them play. It's just with the eye test. They look like the prime San Antonio Spurs. Maybe that's hyperbole, but I don't think it is. I think it might be underselling them. Finally, thirdly, maybe most importantly, they have an absolute dog in Janelle Davis. I mean, this guy is a stud. The way he plays basketball, it reminds me of Kawhi Leonard. Not in terms of his play style, but in terms of his intensity. This dude is an absolute killer. 29 points last game. Absolutely just took over. I couldn't be more enthralled by Janelle Davis and the way he plays. When you're a Cinderella team, you need that one guy, that Steph Curry for Davidson, that Jimmer Fredette for BYU, that Max Asmus for Oral Roberts. They have that in Janelle Davis, and it's been an absolute pleasure to watch.
They have a nice little duo.
Couldn't be higher. Couldn't be
with
higher.
Elijah
than FAU.
Martin.
Yep,
They
yep,
do,
yep.
right?
Good Elijah Martin pull.
Well, let me ask you this. Are you worried that this is their first time in the Sweet 16? Like,
No,
this is what we always have to talk about.
No,
with
no,
Cinderella.
no. They look so competent with the way they play basketball. I mean, they look. It's weird because the games weren't particularly not close. They were both relatively close, but each time watching both those games, I felt like they were completely in control. I never had any worries about them. I wish I picked them earlier. They were 33-3 in the regular season. I don't know why I didn't pick them, but watching them play has been great. And I'm not worried about them at all. I think they absolutely dog walk Tennessee.
All right, well, how far do you think they're going to go? Is
Probably
my second
winning it all.
question.
Probably winning it all.
Winning the championship.
Yep, I think so. I think it'd be crazy not to at this point.
I mean, they look good, but experience, you have to have that at some point. And obviously, it comes with years of experience. Years
The
are
thing is-
really necessary in
Thing is,
order.
Janelle Davis is probably the best player I've ever seen. So I mean, this guy is
That was a
crazy.
bit of a stretch.
He is so good. He gets me fired up.
You're living in the era of Steph Curry, and you're
Davis.
stating that right
Okay,
now.
Danielle, we're going to stick with you. Well, who's your Cinderella team?
Okay, I know everybody is talking about Princeton right now, but I had to jump on the bandwagon. I love them this year. And Jeff, you were talking some stats about them earlier with Tucson Iwoma. Oh my gosh, he is just beautiful to watch. I just love watching him. Perfect basketball. He leads the team with an average of 14.8 points per game with 4.8 assists. He's leading the team with points. He's absolutely insane. Caden Pierce with an average of 7.4 rebounds a game. I mean, they just have a great lineup, and I've never seen a 16 seed look this complete. And I feel very confident in their bench as well, and I just think watching them play is not only entertaining to see a 16 seed take down 1 seeds, that's always really fun to see, but I just feel like they're one of the more complete teams in the league.
Fun fact, they did win by 15 points the other day, which is the largest margin for a 16th seed team to win by. Don't know
I mean,
if you guys
that's
know that.
crazy.
That's
crazy.
mad,
You
that's
don't
mad
see that,
Cinderella. That's very
I got in
Cinderella-esque.
there, but I rejected them. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't even apply.
Just for the record. Yeah.
Okay, Jeff, who's your team?
Well, I'm going back home, back to places that are close to my home. San Diego State University. Great group of people. I know people who go to that school. Great guys. But none of them are playing basketball, thank God, because this team can switch 1 through 5. They can cover the entire floor. They have Defensive Player of the Year Nathan Mensah. They're a physical, lengthy team, and I think very similar to how FAU might dog walk Texas. I think they might dog walk Alabama, and that's what I'm excited about.
Not
They
an
do
easy
like
task.
their
I think-
defense suffocating.
They haven't let an
Suffocating.
opponent score more than 70 since February 25th.
That's crazy.
That's
Defense wins
insane.
championships. We've seen it many
Exactly.
Danielle
times.
said it.
Yep. And I mean, they just have like a great amount of talent. Senior guard Matt Bradley, he averages 13. They need that scoring, especially on a defensive focused team. Senior Nathan Mensah, 54 blocks this season. I want to see some more blocks coming out of him for the rest of this tournament. I think they take it all the way. I really do. And then lose to Houston. Or FAU. Lose to FAU. Yep.
Yes.
You're just the only one I know who has that on their roster, but that's how you show. It's
Everyone I
great.
talk to, they're saying FAU.
Well, you know,
so-
you're a believer.
Yeah, I don't know who you guys are talking to.
Is
but-
no one gonna ask me who my team is?
What's
Yeah,
your team,
who's your
Faith, what's
Oh my
your,
gosh,
what's your
I'm
favorite
so
Cinderella team?
happy you asked. My
Welcome back to the
Cinderella
box
team
score.
is the 8th seed Razorbacks. I'm going to Arkansas. I know this is not, they're 8th seed, so they're not like, it's not crazy Cinderella, but they're doing something. They have a deep defensive roster. They are incredibly cohesive deep into the bench, which is something that is so important. They're not a team that we're going to see plagued by injuries as the tournament goes on, which I think is something that's important to note. This is also their 3rd consecutive time in the Sweet 16, so they're experienced, but not enough to where they're being complacent. You know, they want it.
Right.
They're hungry, and you can tell when they play. The Mitchell twins, are you joking? Kamani Johnson on lock. They're aggressive on the floor. They have strong rebounding, and that's something that's we've already talked about is so important. Being able to get the boards and play low, especially like if they're gonna compete against UConn, that's exactly what they do. So to be able to get down there, to be able to defend that is gonna be critical and something that we need to look for as we get into the Final Four. And you've got Eric Musselman as coach.
Oh,
Musselman,
wow.
I mean, he's beloved. Like people respect him, but he also, like I was talking about before, he is a coach who can figure out what defense is being played on his team, and he can work around that, and he can speed up his offense. And on the defensive side, he can slow other teams down. That is, I would say, his prime strength, and that's my case for the
That's good.
Razorbacks.
Yeah.
guys.
I mean, they ruined my bracket, so all to them. I hope that they go as far as they can because
Mike?
they ruined my bracket.
My question is, how does FAU deal with Janelle Davis? Because I don't really know if you can.
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
I would love to tell you. I
That's what
don't
I'm saying.
know.
Also, back to coaches. FAU has a coach, goes by the name of Dusty May.
Dusty May.
Is there any better name for a basketball coach
Great
than Dusty
name.
May?
Great
I
name.
mean, there's just more reasons on top of reasons for this Owls team to win it all.
Ready.
Not to, discount your Razorbacks, but I think
It's
the Owls
fine.
might
You
take it
can
all the
disagree
way.
with me,
Yep.
but I'm right.
Respectfully, I do.
All right. Well, keep an eye out for those teams. But for now, keep your eyes on your screens because when we come back, we're going to look at this year's top draft picks. That and more after the break.
Sanders, host of MTV Games, and welcome to my set. Where are the contestants? I lost the contestants. Where are the contestants? Oh, hey there. I'm Jamie Sanders, host of MTV Games. What am I doing in a ball pit? Hello? Hello? What am I doing in a ball pit? I'm all alone. Please watch the show.
much for sticking with the Box Score March Madness special. We are back. We've recapped team performances, but with the NBA draft right around the corner, it's time to switch our focus to some standout players whose draft stock has soared during the tournament. I'm joined by Jackson Tolliver, Jackson Shock, Matt Doherty, and Jeff Grundy, and we're here to bring you some early predictions. Shock, who stood out to you this season and throughout the tournament?
This is a layup. I mean, literally. Aaliyah Boston has been the most dominant player, both men's and women's. When you think about just the general, her ability to do everything, I feel like you could have her 1v5 and she would be able to still score at least 30 because she's so dominant.
Against us?
She's so. She would put up Will Chamberlain against us. She's so dominant.
Not a chance.
She's amazing. And I think the biggest, I have a highlight somewhere where she goes up, she misses a layup, and she bodies someone, just gets through everybody, and then puts it up again. She's so strong. She's so big. It's just, she's superhuman.
Her physicality is like
it's ridiculous.
Nuts.
As well as she's very, very, very smart. She knows how to adapt when defenses are shifting. You can put, like I said, you can put 3 people on her, she's still gonna put up 20. She's so incredibly strong. Like when you watch this, she's beating everybody to the rebound. That Arkansas is gone.
She gets her own boards on like every shot.
Yeah, and the next one, she's gonna miss, get it, and then just go through 3 people to try and make a bucket. It's just, she's so unfair.
She gets the board.
And look at this.
Yeah.
Cash.
Wow.
I mean, she's ridiculous. Not to get into highlight watching, but you could sit and watch highlights because she is essentially this team. So when you think about it, and now when we get to the draft, because I know I can't just talk about how great Aaliyah Boston is all episode, but
We could,
and I will, but I can't. So the number 1 pick goes to the Indiana Fever, so she's obviously going to go there unless she finds a way to play again, which I don't believe she can. So she's going to be an amazing fit there. She would be amazing. She would be an amazing fit anywhere. I'm excited to see how she can grow because obviously she's extremely talented right now. She knows the game of basketball extremely well, but I'm excited to see what improvements she will make in her WNBA career.
Man, I am too.
It's exciting, though.
3-time
I'm ready to get a jersey.
back-to-back AP All-American.
She's ridiculous.
Okay.
She's superhuman.
Wild, and we had to start the block with her because she's the best. Moving on, Matt, who do you have?
Guys, so you're going to be a little shocked. We're talking about guys who should get drafted to the NBA. That's what I viewed this segment as.
Yep.
And I picked Javon Quinterly.
I get a life, pal.
Javon Quinterly of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Okay, this dude is a bit underrated. So I'm no NBA scout.
I don't know about that.
I'm no NBA scout.
Yeah.
Clearly, I'm an anchor on the box score. But Javon Quinterly is currently going 115th in mock drafts. What's that about?
Please explain.
Are any of these scouts watching
Hey Matt, how
March
many
Madness?
picks are in the NBA draft?
Yeah, I would just like to know.
He's like 116.
They're expanding it to 116 this year. No, it's very strange. I feel like none of these scouts are watching these games. I mean, this dude scored 22 last game. He's the best player on the floor at most times on the best team in the country. When you watch the games with your eyes and you see Javon Quinterly dropping 22, he's the best player on the court.
I also have a question.
Brandon
What's your
Miller.
question?
Brandon Miller's
multiple
also on
questions.
the Crimson Tide.
Yeah.
And I would say that they're usually on the floor at the same time.
How many points did Brandon Miller score in the first game?
He didn't score many.
Wait, I have a question
but
though.
he is
The
very good at
question-
basketball.
We're going to talk about Brandon Miller. Don't
I'm
you
sorry.
worry. The question is, what is setting Javon Quinterly apart, and that you think isn't being recognized? Like, what he's ranked 115th. What do you think, besides just his scoring?
Chip on his shoulder.
What's his problem?
Yeah, so I got a problem
Explain
with
the problem.
Mr. Jelly JQ, the former Villanova superstar. That's his nickname. That's his real nickname. Jelly JQ.
That's the people who call me that as well.
Jelly JQ.
I thought you were calling him that too.
No, Javon Quinterly,
It's a
Mr. Jelly
common
JQ.
mistake.
Okay, all right.
Because he's in the Jelly fam.
Yeah,
dimes,
yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Regardless.
He had a great
Listen,
highlight tape.
Jelly JQ is amazing at basketball.
Thank you.
I'm amazing at Fortnite. I'm not going to be an
Javon.
esports player. He's not going to be an NBA player. You know what I'm saying? So more importantly,
You're the Quinterly
he's too
of Fortnite?
small. He's too old.
Hey.
And he turns the ball over too much.
Not
He's
nice.
going to be 24
Okay.
after this year. I don't even know how you're still in college at 24. I mean, how long has this guy been playing? I guess because the COVID year.
Tolliver, hurtful
Whatever.
people are hurt people. You know?
Listen.
We don't want to know who you are.
He's too small. He has no athleticism. Yes, he can play
Okay.
make. Yes, he can
athleticism
shoot.
He is
to
an athletic
stretch
man, but
Tolliver.
he's not ready for the
Compared
NBA.
to,
He's not ready for the NBA.
compared
He's
to
not ready for
NBA
the NBA.
prospects, he does not have athleticism.
You put
No.
that guy in the G League for 5 to 6 years. Let him develop.
Yeah.
He is
And then he's paying mortgages.
I hope in his 30 years. I hope in his 30 years at Alabama he learned Chinese because he's gonna be with the Shanghai Sharks putting up.
Okay,
better than Chinese, buddy.
Jeff,
I hate you
who do
guys.
you have?
Well,
Save us.
well, speaking about unathletic people who deserve their shot, Zach Edey.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
We
This
were.
jabron.
I'm not talking about the first half of the draft. I'm talking about the second half of the draft that you don't want.
Why
But
don't we want
The
him?
I
not
think-
televised one.
I think he deserves to go home to Toronto.
Oh.
I want him.
Okay.
I want him to go to the Raptors. Definitely not with their 14th pick. but I mean, he's averaging 22.3 points, 12.9 rebounds, 2.1 blocks. He's bigger than the Empire State Building. I mean, you just
7'4"
want.
if you didn't know.
Yeah, exactly. You want someone his size. You want someone with his dedication. You do not want him running laps. No. But you
Is he
definitely.
a versatile enough player to argue
I don't
that
think
he
you
should
need
go?
him to
Jeff,
be.
Jeff,
I
Jeff.
think you need him to stand up and block people like Hassan Whiteside.
Have
If
you-
Hassan Whiteside's still playing basketball to
75%
this day.
of his shots this past season came from the post.
Have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Taco Fall, the wide?
Oh, I have. I love Taco.
Came to the Celtics. It absolutely, he's a fan favorite. He's great. He's so big. It's so funny watching him play.
Yup.
Because he's so unathletic and whatever. and he's a token player. That's what he would be. He would be a token player, which is, and there's something to be said that. But break it down. He has no speed. He can't handle drop coverage in the NBA. Any athletic player, any fast player will have an absolute field day with him. Yet all he's going to do is stand in the paint with his arms up like that.
Hey,
Left-handed hook.
That's all we need.
If a team is up by 20 or down by 20 with
No major
But
Really
he's just
good
not going to be enough
Then
of an
maybe.
asset that you need him to be too in crunch time, and that we saw that in the tournament. That's why we're reevaluating draft.
Well, yeah.
No major injuries. He gets to go be a hometown hero.
How do you injure
You
him?
can, because he's a brick wall, and you're never gonna hurt him, and nobody can. The only thing that
Jeff
could
won't
hurt
let
him
you.
is him not being able to go to the NBA.
I give my
I
life
think
for
we need to give some credit to Zach because when I don't know if you guys know this, but he started playing basketball when he was a sophomore in high school.
Yeah, he's super
So
big.
he played,
they said
he
you
played
come
baseball,
here.
and they were like, "Hey, buddy, you're like they're looking up to him. Get out of here. You're not gonna your strike zone.
blocking the sun.
Yeah, seriously, they use him as a shade. But I mean, it shows that his ability to increase his skill and increase his ability to learn the game of basketball, considering he's only been doing it for 6 years. I think that speaks a lot to his character and to his coachability, if you will. I'm not going to say he's going to get drafted. He'll hopefully be playing in the G League in 2 years. I think he should come back to Purdue next year because he's a junior right now.
I want
think
him
he goes
to
to,
make
like,
as
a
much
Ray off the
money as
grid
he
or, like,
can
a-
while he can.
But he's been growing.
nice
He's been
of you.
getting not
He's been
physically.
growing.
He's been growing his game.
Lord, I
Maybe
hope
next year
not.
he'll learn the left
Yeah,
hook.
maybe he'll get
And
a
he'll go to
sky
the
hook.
right.
Maybe he'll get a sky hook.
We're going to talk about one more person's future. Tolliver, here's your chance. Brandon Miller, go crazy.
Yeah. I'd like to bring us back to reality here and talk about who I think is going to be, obviously you can't ignore Wembanyama. I think he's going to be the best player to come out of this collegiate draft class. Unless obviously he has some
You're on a
off the court
thin line
issues.
there.
Yeah, he has some off the court issues. He might, whatever. We don't really know what's going on there. I'm not going to speculate. That's not my job to speculate his off the court issues. My job is to speculate how he will be as an NBA player. The way I look at Brandon Miller, he is a Paul George, Jason Tatum type player. Not in terms of his skill at this moment, just in terms of his build.
I like that.
In terms of his build and his ability to
I like
floor.
that.
He's a
Dude is long.
versatile long wing who can shoot the ball really well.
Yep.
Who's smart.
Yep.
Can drive a fast offense.
He can take the jump shots. I think that his problem is that obviously he lacks some consistency at times. He didn't score in the first
He's streaky.
in the first game. Yeah, he's streaky. Came back, did really well last game.
by the way.
But he averages 19.1 on the year with 8.2 boards.
Yep.
It's like I said, this is like a Jason Tatum type stat
He
line.
can
I'm not going to say
drive
he can
with
come in the league
authority,
and be
like
Jason
his
Tatum.
physicality.
Right.
He's big enough
Right.
to where it helps him, but not enough to
No,
where
he's
it
Exactly.
He's
Right.
able to.
Sorry,
He can
Zach.
shoot over guards, and he can shoot
Right.
over people that are not going to be big enough to be able to contest a shot. But he's also quick enough. Now he's not necessarily explosive enough yet.
Yeah, I
but
think he needs to work
can
on that.
come when he's in the NBA.
Right.
But his ability to kind of get by the bigger guys and to shoot over the smaller is what's going to help you, obviously, in the NBA. I think he can grow. I think he needs some muscle. They got to get him on the Giannis
I was
track,
about to
but
say,
they need to be
put
able
him
to
in
let
the
him still
weight
shoot.
Get
He
Javon
still needs to be able to
Quinterly's
shoot, but they need
workout
him to be a little bit more muscly so that he can get more easier boards when you're going against grown men in the NBA. But I think, yes, Much
Yeah.
better than the other people we've talked about aside from Aaliyah
I would love
Boston,
to see
greatest
him
player of all
on.
time. But
Yeah,
he's exciting.
I would love to see him on the Detroit Pistons maybe
Yep.
teaming up with Kate
Yep.
Cunningham.
I was thinking
Charlotte would be good too. Yeah.
He's not going to get that low, but
Yeah,
if he
but
could go to Portland, that would be exciting.
Portland's got to tank for the rest of the season if they want a chance at him.
Exactly.
I mean, I think.
But imagine that matchup.
Or
That'd be
I mean,
great.
the Spurs
That'd be
obviously.
exciting.
The Spurs need a whole hell of a lot to become a contender.
Spurs could take that whole mammoth
all
team.
of these people, yeah.
Yeah, but
the Spurs need a lot.
The Thunder
Aaliyah
need to be great.
Boston, they need everyone
I
at the
think
table.
that if he goes to the Thunder are a real contender next year,
Oh, yeah.
honestly. But I don't think the Thunder can grab him because I don't think it'll be quite that low.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, so I anticipate he goes to like a Detroit-style team and he really, really excels there in his first
Yeah.
year.
I could see that.
As a versatile wing, and he brings any team to a top level. Eventually, a few years down the line, I think for sure.
Absolutely.
It's a huge thing
pick.
to be the second best player on the best team in the country. So
Would you?
I agree.
You were going to get
No
kicked off
more
of this
time
show.
for
Enough with
arguing.
that.
It's actually time for our last break of the show. After this, we'll bust out our own brackets, and we're going to reveal who we have on the lineups for the rest of the tournament. Rumor has it the worst bracketeer will have to face a punishment.
Whoa.
Stick with us to find out.
And when I arrive at my destination, I am gonna kill Bill.
What? Oh, okay, cutting. Sorry, can we get some of this?
Where in God's name is the gaffer's tape?
Hi, I'm Nate.
And I'm Casey, and we're the National Broadcasting Society.
Come out to some of our weekly workshops, or work on some of our sets.
Explore the bigger picture with NBS.
We'll see you there.
All right, let's get another take. Camera, sound.
Hey, Box Score fans, want to keep up with the Season 15 team? Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and on our new TikTok for all the latest. Now back to the show. It's bracket time, and we are here now with Jackson Shock, Jackson Tolliver, and Jeff Grundy. All of us have made some women's and men's brackets, starting with the Sweet 16, and inside each of these envelopes are only one of the brackets that we created. And we don't know whether or not it's our men's bracket or our women's bracket. But we're gonna find out when I count to 3. Each of us are gonna reveal which one is inside of this little trusty envelope. The 2 experts that pull their women's brackets will face off, while the 2 who have their men's brackets will do the same. And your job, people around me, is to argue why your bracket is the most accurate for the rest of the tournament. Are we ready? Is everybody ready? All right, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Termination
Okay.
notice.
I have my women's bracket. I have my women's bracket.
I've got
Who do you
men's.
have?
I've got men's.
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 Yep.
Women's.
Okay.
Yes.
Jeff, why don't you start with us first? Who's on your bracket? What are the highlights? Who do you have winning? Break it down.
I think one of the biggest stories about my bracket is SDSU. I'm saying SDSU
That's
gets
shocking,
far. But what I also believe in, I'm also looking at that UCLA team. I'm seeing a lot of great things out of that UCLA team. But let's draw your attention to Houston. Wow, Houston. Senior Marcus Sasser averaging 16.9 points. Freshman Jarris Walker,
Love Jarris Walker.
scored 16 against NKU. He's projected to be a top 10 draft pick. I mean, I'm so excited. I think this Houston team's going to win the whole thing. Take it all.
Did you use a coin to get this bracket?
I used my heart and my intuition.
Jeff was like,
I've got an issue with about everything.
Jeff just loves the color red. He was
I
just
love.
I think so.
I love.
No, but
And I love those K-State. I love those K-State. Hey, roll Tide. But I mean,
Can you walk us through the Alabama upset?
yeah,
please
absolutely.
walk us through
It happens when a cold wind blows through Tuscaloosa.
Okay.
And everybody in Alabama starts going, wait a second, we can lose? We lose game? Wait, what? Huh? What's going on? And then from sunny California, the San Diego State, I forgot, I don't, Aztecs?
Yep.
Are they the Aztecs?
Attaboy.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
They take the whole thing.
Oh,
They take
man.
it. They take it all the way to the final, where they get beat by the Houston Cougars.
I just, someone attack this. I can't do it right now.
Okay, first let's walk our way through.
Yeah.
San Diego State, is great. They're awesome. They play really good defense.
I agree.
Not good enough defense to stop Brandon Miller and everybody on the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, no.
Creighton is not. There's no chance. Where's the camera? There's no chance Creighton loses. There's no chance that Creighton loses.
Creighton loses.
There's no chance that Creighton loses to Princeton. No shot.
Good thing Matt Doherty's not on this
Dude.
stage because he's got FAU in first round.
FAU, Tennessee, that could go either way. Tennessee's playing big. FAU's
don't
not.
know.
But either way, I like the Tennessee call.
K-State?
MSU,
I
K-State,
don't-
definitely.
K-State?
I
Come
love
on.
MSU, but I don't know.
taking
Look, you've got a rough bracket, and I can't wait to see what punishment you're doing.
All right,
I'm excited.
All right, let's
I'm
move
excited.
On. If you think Jeff's is so rough, this is
Let's
a
look at
perfect
mine.
way for
Let's
me
look
to
at
ask
mine.
you what your bracket is,
Let's
Josh.
do it. All right. Wow. Now let's come back to reality. Let's
Here,
work our way through. Let's work our
I
way
see
through.
the same UCLA. I see the same amount of UCLA.
I like your UCLA call.
Right?
They're better than Gonzaga. Drew Timme is not going to be able to single-handedly take on UCLA in their backcourt. This game is going to be a fun game to watch. UConn versus Arkansas. Versus Arkansas is going to be a really fun game. But I think UConn, they're finally playing back. You got to remember they were a top 5 team for about the first about 3 weeks in the middle of the season. They're a good team.
Very good.
I see them moving on. Xavier, Cincinnati, I'm sorry. I love you, Cincinnati.
Gone.
And I really hope that you can win.
They're not going to be.
And I want to personally I want to do a personal shout out to Soleil Boom.
Yes,
I love your name. I love Boom. Boom and Kunkel sounds like the coolest cop duo you've ever seen. That being said, I think Texas is better. Moving on, Miami versus Houston. It's a fun game, but Houston, they're starting to play like themselves. The injuries haven't been as much of an impact as we thought. And then as we get further along, Texas is a good team. This is a team that beat Kansas, and I know they're not necessarily the most excited or the most reliant kind of team, but nonetheless, we move on. I see Texas moving on. UCLA, this is a tough one because UCLA played tight with another team, I guess a 2 seed that got knocked, but
Arizona.
That's a tough one. So I see UCLA, Tennessee, and K-State. That's a fun one. Shout out to Marquise Noel, favorite player.
K-State
He's short,
takes it.
he's a little bigger, and he's flashy. I see Tennessee, and I see Alabama, but at the end of the day, Tennessee, Alabama. That's a tough one. They already played. Tennessee beat them. They've had their number all seasons. Nice try in football, Alabama. You lost to Tennessee. But at the end of the day, Alabama's the best team. They're going to win.
Man.
Nope.
All right.
They're going to win.
I like Shocks better than
This is,
shout out
I
Xavier.
do.
Shout
I'm
out
sorry,
Xavier.
Jeff. I do
Shout
like
out
Shocks
Xavier.
better.
Shout out Tennessee.
I do.
I love you all.
All right. It's my turn now. All right, switch back with me.
back.
Switch back. All right, we'll look at this women's bracket. First of all, I just want to point out, first and foremost, because you're not going to see it when it pops up on the screen, the team who I have winning is UConn. All right, this is where my bracket I know is going to look really different than Tolliver. First of all, I have Miami taking Nova. All right, because they're they have so much more than that. No, they want it badly. They're coming back, and I think that they're going to do it. This is a Cinderella team, like we already talked about.
Villanova they have the player with the highest amount of points in college basketball.
many
Right?
I know, but that doesn't.
That's a different story.
Moving
Interesting
on.
take.
First of all, this is something else I want to point out. UCLA taking South Carolina. That's a really.
No.
Why? What are you talking about? Why?
First of all, Aaliyah Boston is Aaliyah Boston.
But Charisma Osborne, first of all, paired up with Beatrice Coltron, the way that they are able to drive and dish is wild. No. I dare
And meanwhile,
you go watch
Aaliyah Boston's
that.
going to be
Go
standing up here
watch
and just
that game
swatting all
tape.
night.
It doesn't
Boom.
matter. Also, UCLA
Boom.
is only one of 4 teams who they
Don't say it.
lost to
You're
South
choking
Carolina.
on your lies.
They lost
You're
to South
choking on
Carolina
your lies,
by
Faith.
less than 10 points. And they're only one of 4 teams to do that. And that is impressive. And I think that in the tournament, the stakes are higher and they can make it happen. What's your question,
I want to
Jeff?
point something out about Iowa. I love that Iowa pick.
Awesome. Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark.
She's
22 against Georgia.
legendary.
She's averaging 26. That's literally one of the highest averages in the tournament.
In the entire tournament.
She might beat UCLA is what I'm looking at.
It could happen, but I
One who's
don't
gonna
think
get
it's
in the way?
going to.
Aaliyah Boston.
No. And I have UConn going. I have UConn going away.
basketball.
Aziz Fudd.
Besides Brown
killing
Stewart.
it.
She's really
Aaliyah
good, too.
killing it.
You're really doubting Ohio State, and that's bumming me out because
Well, up
Taylor
against
Mikesell,
UConn, yeah.
Taylor Mikesell, averaging 17, got 17 against UNC. That game against UNC, they weren't supposed to win it. And then when they did, everybody started looking around and going,
Yep.
"Oh wow, this team has heart.
We talked
this
about it
team
earlier.
plays
OSU's
really
a good team.
hard."
Or we can
OSU's
be
a
like,
good team.
it was a fluke.
Don't sleep on Tennessee either. Tennessee's a really good team too.
Okay. All right. Fine. Let's look at Tolliver's. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I'm done taking
Let's
this
do
hate.
it.
Tolliver.
I like your
tell us
Maryland
what you
pick over
have.
there. Oh, what?
Oh.
Just got rid of it.
We got some similarities, all right? And The Final Four, we have the exact same thing, except for the most egregious take I've heard all night, which is South Carolina's
You
going to
also
win.
still have Miami. Shocking.
This is great.
Nobody's a good team.
Those Cavendish twins from the For You page to the big stage.
No.
You're gonna keep talking about that.
You can't compensate for talent
They're
with
on
TikTok.
my For You page
That's not how
all
it
the
works.
time, though.
That's
You're mad because
there
they're
are
not
just,
famous.
there are just
That's
some things
fine.
that are meant to happen.
Elliot Boston is better.
Notre Dame, it was just St. Patrick's Day like a week ago. So I don't see them losing.
So we're getting back to the coin flip.
No.
That's what I'm hearing.
Let's talk numbers, okay?
Please.
UConn, South Carolina. UConn.
Legendary.
They have not lost, or sorry, they've won a game by over double digits for the last month. The last time that they lost a game by single digits was February 27th, so almost a month rather.
Wow.
South Carolina, obviously unspoken. Like I don't even talk much. They're going for the perfect season.
Yep.
They're incredible. They're gonna do it. UConn, even without Paige, who's supposed to be their star player, they still have, as you brought up, Fudd. They have Newell, they have Aaliyah Edwards, players that are stepping up in the clutch, big time. And they also beat Villanova, who's on this part of the bracket, who I think is also going to lose. But showing that they can win against big teams, including OSPU, in big moments. I think they're going to beat OSU,
don't say
beat
that about
Tennessee.
OSU,
Just
man.
come, just go all the
coming
way.
after you.
UCLA, I don't see it. I see it more for the men's bracket, but for the women's bracket, they are up against a impossible
phenomenal
challenge.
team. I wasn't arguing against
Aaliyah Boston is the consensus #1 pick. We've already talked about that, but they've blown out both teams.
Yep.
They won by 30 in the last game. Like it hasn't even been close. They are so on top of the world of women's basketball right now that they cannot be caught. It is impossible for them to be caught.
About the U, I'm really happy to see that pick
big
there.
U.
Because we were talking about the Cavendish twins. It's TikTok, it's cool. But they have other players too. And I would like to highlight those players.
I forgot about that.
Senior Destiny Harder, she averages 12 and she got 18 against Indiana. I was just about to say, she was the one who crushed the dreams of the Hoosiers, which hurt me a lot because I was really excited to see them go far. And now with that upset, the tide's shifted. We don't need TikTok stardom.
No.
We can win this without them. We can win this without them.
I don't know.
And that's something
And that's what
important.
we're gonna have to see. I'm stoked, guys. Sweet 16 is happening so
Little
soon.
shout out, brief shout out.
Yeah, you can give your shout out.
Shout out to the Miami Hurricanes, the Tennessee Volunteers, the UConn Huskies, and the UCLA Bruins, because they have
guys.
teams in both Sweet 16
And Emerson
men's
College,
and women's.
Teams mentioned, if
Shout out
you see
them.
Shout out
that, you're
Emerson.
doing great. If you see this, keep up the good work. We're going to wrap up the Box Score's first ever March Madness special now, but we have a little bracket competition for all of you guys at home. The Box Score Instagram has just released an Elite 8 bracket template of our own. Head over to our account at EIV Box Score, screenshot the template, fill it out, repost it to your story, and tag us for the chance to win a $50 Dunkin' gift card.
$50?
You know you want it. The participant with the most accurate bracket by the end of the tournament will be crowned the winner, and we'll be announcing the results live on our final episode on April 4th. So be sure to tune in. That's going to be live at 8 p.m. That's it for tonight. Thanks so much for watching the Box Score live March Madness special. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at EIV Box Score. And while you're there, follow me at face.pinnow. For Jackson Tolliver, Jackson Shock, Jeff Grundy, Danielle DuBois, and Matt Doherty, I'm Faith Pinnow. Good night, and we'll see you next time.